I recently got a new PC. Let's talk about it. In 2020, I bought a streaming PC, and about a year later, I started having problems. My old PC was having a blue screen issue. When I was actively streaming, I had spent some investment into a PC that was considered a streaming PC. It was a pre-built. Oh no! It was good for about a year until the warranty ended, and then I started having problems. This was like hard shut off, like black screen. It wasn't even like a blue screen warning. What I think was happening was my PC was overheating and then shutting itself off. And I wanted to play games like Valorant. It was mostly like Valorant at the time. They were a little bit heavier. Yeah, warranty over, problem began. There was only one other review on this pre-built, which is Buddy started having issues with the computer after a year. So I wish I had like returned it or like reached out to the warranty before it started having issues, but I guess hindsight's 2020, you know? I didn't really know what to do about my problem because I didn't know anything about computers, so I let it go for a little bit too long. Like I was letting it shut itself off and then I would step away and let it cool down and then come back to it, which is probably something I shouldn't have done. I should have like brought it to a PC guy and be like, hey, my computer's shutting off, what's wrong? So when I did finally bring it to a PC guy, he was saying that my water cooler was boiling. And I was like, oh, that's really bad. That sounds really, really bad for me. I didn't know anything about like computer temperatures or like I was so naive to any of that information. Also, it was like kind of a shitty pre-built. It was just like a bad situation overall. And anyway, I got the water cooler changed to a regular fan, but by then the damage had already been done, right? The computer had overheated multiple times. I'm not exactly sure what the issue is. I know the graphics card passed, and it's only intense gaming that I could get crashes to happen at first. Some of the games that I can remember is like Rainbow Six, it would crash without fail, and then Valorant, it would crash without fail. And I was getting like a Watchdog something error and one or two other errors. And I was getting really tired of it. I was streaming or playing with friends. Left 4 Dead crashed too. Oh yeah, I forgot. There was a couple of games, even like games that weren't like super crazy good, that I was having issues with. And at first I thought it was a graphics thing. Minecraft and Phasmo? Damn, okay, it was worse than I remember it being. Pretty much any game we played together. You know what? I remember the Phasmo one because I was actually really bummed about that because I was really into Phasmo and you guys were playing and I kept killing the world. As in like if I would DC from a Phasmo game, they would get like pushed back to a lobby. So they literally could not play with me. And I felt bad because I was making them reset every 2 seconds and then they were really nice. They're like, let's play again. Like, we'll try it again. Let's see if it works. And then we'd spend like 40 minutes troubleshooting. Then I would just sit there and go like, play without me. I feel bad. Just open a Discord stream or something and I'll pretend that I'm there. We were just bummed you couldn't play with us. Yeah, it was just like a really sad moment. And I appreciate your patience, because I did not have any patience when it came to these computer issues. It went on for like a year and a half or more. I don't remember when I started having those PC issues. I'm sure I could go back and get the timeline for you, but it was long enough. Especially like knowing that I had high demands for streaming and stuff. To be fair, I like stopped streaming during this time, but it was also made worse because of these problems. A long time. I remember I was always asking if you got it fixed. I had multiple people like telling me what I should try and what I should do, and I had some friends that were like, okay, we're gonna start like hot swapping parts to figure out what the issue was, because again, I brought it to the computer guy. He said it was overheating and that he fixed the overheating issue, and that was true, but the damage had already been done. So I did do some minor things, such as changing the RAM. I like would take one RAM stick out, play the game, it kept crashing, switch the RAM sticks, see if that did anything. And that did help a little bit. I think it helped with the frequency of the crashing, but I found that was really weird that the RAM would be the issue. Yes, it would be important if it got hot, but it's not directly what was being cooled by the water cooler. I was pretty sure it could have been like a CPU issue or maybe a motherboard issue, because that's what was crashing the computer when it was getting like way too hot and then black screening. But again, I didn't have the computer technicality or the disposable funds to go and buy like a second like CPU, second motherboard, and to like swap them and test them. The guy did like the traditional diagnosis and nothing really came up because the parts weren't broken, they just weren't working properly. So I sat on it for a little while. It was running enough where I could do the bare basics that I needed. If I had an interview or if I was doing something not as intensive, I could still play, but most of my play with friends was getting interrupted. I couldn't stream very well. I was just tired of it. I do remember taking a little bit of a break from the computer at that time. Like I was doing a little bit more hobbies, spending some time outside, hanging out with friends. So it was good to take like a little bit of a break. But the degenerate inside of me was like, that's enough. I want to sit and play video games all day. We need a new PC. I was scared to go with another pre-built because I did have such like a negative experience with it. I didn't want to risk spending another chunk of money and then having it fall through again. I don't have the knowledge to do a build on my own, and I don't have anyone that's around me immediately that I could trust if I just like gave them the money to do it and like build it for me or like show me how to build it. But here comes my friend who doesn't live where I am, so it was a little bit of a process, but he wanted to start like a PC building or something business, and he wanted to get some experience under his belt. He was talking like in the group chat being like, hey, does anyone want a computer built? And I was like, oh my god, I want one, but you're so far away, so that really sucks for us. And he started talking about what kind of experience he wanted. He wanted to build a like top of the line, best specs on the market, really expensive computer. And I was like, okay, well, I'm not gonna do that. I can't just spend like $5,000 on a computer. There's no way. But then he was also like, I want to build, I think they call them ITX. Yeah, ITX, like a mini PC. Oh, that would be perfect for me. I think my PC right now is too big. I don't have a lot of space. I think if I were to come pick it up or like ship it or something, an ITX build would be perfect because it is small, right? So we started talking. I was kind of desperate at the time, so I was like full in. I told him, here's my budget. If you can make it work, let's make this work. I wasn't sure how serious he was about it. We did a little bit of a vibe check. We agreed. He sent me a part list, which I can go through now if you guys want to know the specs of my PC, my current PC. I gave him the go ahead and he was so excited. We talked a little bit about what I needed from my PC and what I wanted from my PC, and we went back and forth on what the case would look like. But for the most part, I gave him full creativity within my budget because I was very scared of him going above the budget. And this was US dollars to Canadian, so there was a conversion rate there. Right now, the PC, for the CPU, I have an AMD Ryzen 7 5700X3D 3 GHz 8 core processor. I actually have a liquid cooler. So maybe I should learn a little bit about the maintenance of a liquid cooler. It's like Thermalright Frozen Edge 69 CFM liquid CPU cooler. We've got, for the motherboard, a Gigabyte B550i or L, I don't know what that is. AORUS Pro AX Mini ITX AM4 motherboard. We've got some G.Skill Trident Z Royal 32 GB the RAM. The ITX needs to have really good cooling because all of the components are kind of smushed together. So without enough airflow, you're gonna have a lot of overheating problems, which again, really scared me at first. But my friend wanted the challenge and he was up for doing all of the research and learning how to do this properly. And he did a great job. Like, I've never had any issues with this computer. I have a 2 TB solid state drive. For the GPU, we have a GeForce RTX 4070. I don't know if you guys care about the power supply or anything, but it is a Corsair SF750. 750 watts. I've got a couple Arctic P12 PWM fans. Really good PC. You did a great job. Despite the size, it's still like a really strong PC. Because this was like 2024. So November 2024 is when he built the PC. And I didn't need everything to be perfect. I actually told him I didn't want it to be super high-end because of my budget. Like, I still gave him a decent budget, but I did tell him, like, I don't need the best RAM. please stay under budget. And he did a really good job balancing budget and performance. I then had to go to the States and pick that computer up. And I flew with it in my carry-on, which is crazy. I do know other people in the area. Like, there's a bunch of friends in one spot. So I did go down not only to pick up the PC, but to see all my friends. But the thought of me getting on a plane with my newly built PC, oh my god, and anything could happen to it. I was so nervous in customs because I was like, oh my god, they're gonna want me to open up this computer, and because it's an ITX build, like everything's really compact, so it's gonna appear on the X-ray really weirdly, and they might have me take components out of the PC, and I might have to like sit here and either let some stranger pull screws, or I'm gonna have to figure out how to do that, and I was so scared. Not warranted. I got to the customs line, put my bag up on the conveyor belt. They didn't even open my bag. They did not care at all that I had a whole computer in my carry-on. It was the easiest TSA line I've ever been in, which I was very thankful for because I was stressing. And it was heavy. I had like a long travel day and I was hauling this whole PC, but I got it home. And the only problem was one of the zip ties shifted. He has everything like tied tight because it's such a tight build. The cable management is really important. And the zip tie plastic was interrupting one of the fans. Not completely, but just making like a ticking noise. So I did actually have to open it up and figure out what was going on, but I ended up just cutting one of the zip ties. And he said it was fine. He added extra zip ties for traveling because he wanted nothing to move, which is totally fair, and I really appreciate his due diligence. And then I had my new build. Yeah, I'm really happy with how it's been done, and hopefully this PC will last me a long time, because again, I did get scared from my previous experience and having issues 1 year in. We're almost at 1 year, and I don't think I've had any problems yet, so let's hope we can get 2 without any sort of changes and stuff. I did have to compromise with him on the case. I had mentioned earlier in this story, we went a little bit back and forth on the parts and stuff. He would send me parts lists and confirm like if this was okay and within my budget. But the one thing we couldn't agree on was the case. I told him I want a pink pretty girl case for girl gaming and being pretty. And I want it has to be pink. And that was my non-negotiable. I had like a couple of non-negotiables that I think were pretty reasonable. He would ask me like, do you want RGBs and stuff? And I was like, no, let's go with cheaper components and not worry about gamer lights. But if we're doing that, it's gotta be pink. And I don't know if he just like hated the idea or because he did take pictures of the computer so he could use it to advertise his service, which I'm like totally fine with. Like that's the whole purpose of him practicing this build. But I was also like, a pink pretty PC is okay. Like you're gonna take pictures and advertise that you can do this. He didn't want it to be pink. Because nobody wants a pink pretty PC, which I get, but I wanted a pink pretty PC. So he showed me a couple of the cases he really liked, keeping in mind that we needed to think about the airflow. So it was very limited in what we could do. Having glass on the PC takes up way too much space, and that's not airflow. But then he was giving me like his personal recommendations of cases. He had these cases with wood in it. It was white with like a strip of wood, very like office core or I don't know, sleek and modern. And I was like, you are going in such a wrong direction with what I want. I'd rather a basic black case over this like fancy live wood edge, whatever, or a pink pretty PC. We ended up finding this gray case. It kind of looks like a microwave. But we ended up putting RGBs inside. You could just buy a pink case later. If I bought the pink case, I would then have to myself transfer all of the components. And again, this is not a regular PC build. So there is no space to fuck up. You have to be very good with every component placement and the wiring. Not something I'm going to probably open and play around with without guidance. I have opened it once or twice. And I will figure out how I want to clean it at some point. But for now, we look at it, we listen, and we don't judge. We look at it and we don't use our fingers. We don't touch it. We dust the top of it occasionally. We were originally going to ship the PC to me, and I was gonna like cover the cost and everything, obviously, because it's my PC. And it would give him some very helpful experience with shipping PCs. So we were gonna ship the PC to me, but then the postal service, Canada Post, went on strike. Looking back at, like, obviously I support the strike workers, but looking back at it, it was so stressful. I had paid for the PC and it was just stuck with him. He couldn't send it to me and I couldn't go down to get it because I didn't have any plans. So the PC was built in November and I got my hands on it in like March or like February. But yeah, we were talking about like shipping the PC and how he was going to put stuff in the like foam in the base compartment of the computer so that nothing would move. And then he was talking about how he was going to have to walk me through extracting that foam without hitting any of the components. The good thing is the ITX didn't have much space that it needed padded. The bad thing is that it would need to be very intricate and it was going to be a whole process. I've had PCs shipped to me before. My last purchase was a pre-build, so that came in a box and everything, and that was really fine. So I was okay with the process. It was just going to cost me more money. And honestly, it was probably about the same price to get a plane ticket down to see them. So that's what I did.
Is your computer setup sad and outdated? Having trouble running your favorite game? Are you looking to build a PC but don't know what parts you should pick up? Well, look no further. Order a custom part list from the Computer Quack. Here's a testimony from a satisfied customer. So don't wait, get yours today. Link in description for service info and additional details.